Faucha, hello and welcome to Keith's Whisky Vlog. My name is Keith, and as well as here on YouTube, you'll find me on Instagram at Whisky Tour Guide Keith, all one word. How are you doing? Hope you're okay. Now, there's no prizes for guessing which whisky I am going to be tasting for you today. We've got the Laphroaig jug, the Laphroaig t-shirt, and here we have, I don't like using the term bad boy, but in this case it is appropriate, the bad boy of Scottish whisky, Islay single malt Laphroaig 10 years old. Notorious, we'll get onto that in a minute, but that's what we're going to do, a little whisky tasting of the Laphroaig 10-year-old for you today. Now, as I like to do, we'll start off, we'll read the box, we'll read the carton for you, and tell you a little bit about it. Laphroaig was established in the year 1815, well over 200 years old now. A lot of promotions and such like for their 200th anniversary, the same year as Ardbeg, I believe, the 200th anniversary, and 1 year before Lagavulin. So, on the back it says Laphroaig, and it tells you how to pronounce it. I once had an American guy who was telling me how to pronounce Laphroaig, and I said, what's your favourite whiskey? Oh, Laphroaig. I was like, do you mean Laphroaig? He's like, no, Laphroaig. It's like, I think you mean Laphroaig. He's like, no, I spoke to a bartender in New York and he told me it's pronounced Laphroaig. I said, well, look at the bottle, it tells you. Laphroaig, Laphroaig. Laphroaig. So there you go, Laphroaig. Again, it's Gaelic. Like so many Scottish whisky distillery names, it comes from Gaelic. And I'll tell you a little bit further down at the information what it's thought to have meant in Gaelic. Laphroaig single malt Scotch whisky has always kept itself a bit remote, like the islanders of Islay themselves. A touch aloof at first, but make the effort. Broach acquaintance and you'll have a warm and genuine friend for life. Take it neat like a stalwart, or with a splash of soft water. Roll it around on your tongue. Release the pungent earthy aroma of blue peat smoke, the sweet nuttiness of the barley, the delicate heathery perfume of Islay's streams. Close your eyes and imagine the waves lapping Laphroaig, the beautiful hollow by the broad bay. So yes, again it's got that AIG at the end. Aig, egg, you get this at the end of a lot of Gaelic place names, and it comes into Gaelic from the old Norse language for bay. And therefore you can tell it's on the coast. Beautiful little distillery. When you go there, funnily enough, it smells of peat smoke. Obviously they're burning the peat to dry out the barley, and that's infusing the smokiness, the earthiness of the peat into the whisky. Laphroaig is one of the few distilleries in Scotland that does its own floor maltings. Most distilleries get their barley malted centrally to order. There is a maltings on Islay at the old Portellen distillery, but Laphroaig, who else do it on Islay? I think there's three. I'm not sure about Ardnahoe, they're a new one, but Laphroaig, Kilchoman and Bowmore all malt their own barley. So you've just always got that beautiful smell. I visited Laphroaig the first time, I think, in 2016. It's 5 years ago from when I'm talking to you now, and I shoveled some peat into their ovens. So in 5 years' time, the 10-year-old will have some peat that I personally shoveled in, and I'll certainly be getting a bottle of it then. So a lovely distillery, lovely people, like all the distilleries on Islay. Great pace, nice and slow, nice and relaxed, and they take great pride and pleasure in making typically smoky Islay whisky. Right, so we'll get it out, see what it says for you on the bottle. I think it's more or less the same. As you can see, green glass, it sort of hides the colour a little bit. I like most marketing in whiskies. Laphroaig, quite notorious. It's got the white label, the green bottle, quite vivid. So, Islay single malt, aged 10 years old, the most richly flavoured of all Scotch whiskies, if they don't mind saying so themselves. Laphroaig, pronounced Laphroaig, is an all-malt Scotch whisky from the remote island of Islay in the Western Isles of Scotland. Laphroaig is a Gaelic word and means the beautiful hollow by the broad bay. In the making of Laphroaig, malted barley is dried over a peat fire. The smoke from the peat gives Laphroaig its particularly rich flavour. Laphroaig is best savoured neat or with a little cool water. And it comes in at 40%. So right on the limit of the lower limit of the percentage. I think it is sometimes bottled at 43%. The peat that they use for Laphroaig, they have their own peat bogs. And if you've been to Islay, a lot of the peat bogs are pretty much at sea level, just a metre or two above sea level. So the peat, it's formed through sort of coastal maritime plants that grow at that sort of sea level, and because it's right on the Atlantic, any winds, any storms coming in, blowing that sea, the salty water over the peat bogs. So the peat that they use in Islay, and especially at Laphroaig, it's got more of a sort of that salty coastal sea maritime tinge to it. So we'll see if that translates into the whisky. Let's get some into a glass. Love a little pop. You can see the still on the top. Always a nice little touch. Keeps children like me happy. Right, the glass I'm using, I'm not sure if you can see, this is one I got on a little tour there in 2018. Now, the Laphroaig 10-year-old, it is chill filtered. Not all the whiskies at Laphroaig are chill filtered, but this one is. Upset some people. That's an ongoing debate as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Chill filtration, chill filtered, non-chill filtered. If you want to know more about terms like that, check out my terminology video, or I've got a few, and I'll be releasing them as we go and talking about whisky terminology. I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, check out the terminology tutorial. They also use, in this, they use colouring, the caramel colouring. I noticed it's actually on the bottom of the tube. Now, I took German at school. My German is very rusty, so it does say product of Scotland, but at the end it says mit Farbstoff. Farben Unterrit med Caramel. So mit, with, I know that much. Farbstoff, if I remember correctly, Farbe is colour, and I'm going toff being toffee, so toffee colour, Farbstoff. Farben Justrit, made with caramel, I'm presuming, something like that. So it does have that toffee colouring. So the green bottle, I suppose, hides it a little bit, but you can see nice colour, but this is not the actual out of the cask colour. They are, for whatever justification, for whatever reason, they are colouring it a little bit. Now, I mentioned it's quite a notorious whisky, the bad boy of Scotch whisky, the most richly flavoured. When you go into Laphroaig, into the distillery, on the wall they've got feedback from all their fans, all their the peat heads, the smoke heads, whatever you want to call them, and there's some great feedback on there, and they describe Laphroaig in various quite colourful, evocative ways. And a couple of the comments, for instance, they say the Laphroaig 10-year-old, it's like tasting a burning hospital. So you get the idea. There's a bit of smoke, there's a bit of that medicinal, that sort of idea. What else? It's like a big peaty slap in the face. So there's giving you a bit of an idea. It's not subtle, it's not gentle, it comes at you. A lot of people who maybe don't like whisky, and then somebody opens a bottle of Laphroaig on the other side of the bar, and like, what is that? That's not normal. That's not whisky. So you often think I better not introduce people to whisky using the Laphroaig. However, a lot of people who didn't think they liked whisky smell Laphroaig, and this is their way in, and they come in via Islay, the sort of the smokiest, most pungent region, whisky producing region in Scotland. As soon as you take the lid off this, the whole room smells of it straight away. I often say that I would use it at home as an air freshener, but I'm not sure my good lady wife would allow it. Just having the place smelling of booze all day, well, good booze all day, every day. Okay, so on the nose, in the mouth as usual, then I'll add a little bit of water. We'll do a little tasting for you. Now, immediately getting that smokiness, the earthiness. I've drank quite a lot of this in my time. I know what it smells like. It's not as brutal, it's not as in your face as you might think, but it's certainly got those classic Islay characteristics. It's very bold, quite a full flavour. Have a little taste. Smoky, earthy, bold. It just takes me back to Islay. So once you drink it, that's when it starts to, any gentleness on the nose is replaced in the mouth. So this is the 10-year-old. Every year in Ireland they release a cask strength limited edition 10-year-old. And one of my favourites, I used to describe, it was like having the top of your mouth scraped by an ashtray, and you get a little bit of that in the standard 10-year-old. It was really burnt ash. It's renowned as being quite a medicinal, almost sort of TCP, that sort of taste, the burning hospital, that sort of idea. But I have been told that the Laphroaig 10-year-old today, the last few years, isn't anything like it was 20, 30 years ago. That used to be really almost like sort of a bucket that you'd use for mopping the floor of a hospital with the bleach, and that real disinfectant almost. If you go back to the time of Prohibition in America, the 1920s, obviously alcohol was banned. Laphroaig, apparently, the story goes, was still allowed because it wasn't marketed as a whiskey. Because of that medicinal smell, it was marketed as a medicine, so doctors could prescribe it and you could get around the Prohibition ban by prescribing yourself some medicine. So yeah, real charred. You can taste the charred barrels. As I say, that burnt ash. It does calm quite quickly. And yeah, I'd say you get a bit of the wood coming in a little bit later, so that burnt wood calms down. Still quite strong. Might just sit here and make you watch me drink the whole thing. It's lovely. Okay, so nothing too sophisticated, but quite notorious, quite strong, in your face, right up my street. Lovely whiskey. Buy me one of these when you see me. I'll be your friend. I'll talk to you for as long as you want. And it doesn't break the bank either. You'll get a bottle of 10-year-old for £35–40 UK prices, something like that maybe, and sometimes a little bit cheaper. So a decent dram, decent bottle. I'm going to add a little bit of water as well. Trusty Laphroaig jug. I had my folks over in Islay once and said to my mum, I really like that jug. Guess what I got for my birthday? A little Laphroaig jug. Really, actually, so when I'm dropping that in, I can really see the interaction. I'm only going to put 2 in, sort of breaking down the spirit a little bit. So 2 drops of water. Dr. Keith prescribes. I get more smoke in the nose this time. Don't usually drink it with water. It does calm it down a little bit. I would say it dilutes it, but it calms it down Still got the taste, the flavour notes that we had before. That burnt ash, but in a calmer, maybe I suppose you could say a more palatable fashion. Certainly quite earthy as well, a bit earthier rather than smoky with the water, maybe more peaty than the smoke. So there you go, that's the Laphroaig 10-year-old. Should be on a list of things people have to do before they die. If you're going to drink one whisky, have a little nose of it at least, try and have a little dram. So there we go. Now, at the end of my tastings, I always like to recommend similar whiskies, and the 3 that I decided to recommend I have in my collection at the moment. So they are over here on the shelf. The trusty whisky tour guide Keith Pointer. So, Laphroaig 10-year-old, I would recommend you try the Laphroaig quarter cask. The 10-year-old tends to be the base of most of the core expressions in the Laphroaig range. So this is pretty much the same to start off with, and then they finish off the maturation in smaller casks, quarter casks, a sort of traditional style. So if you like this, or you can't get this, or you want to try something similar, the Laphroaig quarter cask. Check out my review of that one as well. Moving a bit closer, we have the Kilchoman Macher Bay, also Islay, and this is very peaty, very smoky. That's like their Laphroaig 10-year-old, it's part of their core range. It's not got an age statement. Kilchoman is still quite a young distillery, but give that a try if you haven't already. And coming right in, next door but one, about 2 miles away, maybe not even that far from Laphroaig, is the Ardbeg distillery, I assume you can see there. And the Ardbeg 10-year-old, able bedfellow with the Laphroaig 10 years old. So the Laphroaig quarter cask, Kilchoman Macher Bay, or the Ardbeg 10 if you're looking for something in the same ballpark. So there we go, hopefully you enjoyed that video. A little tasting of Laphroaig, a little bit of information about the distillery and stuff. Check out my other videos, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you think in the comments, any questions, etc. Otherwise, I will see you again at some point hopefully. All the best, cheers for now, Slán Java.